Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, mighty fine lads and ladies. Good to see you. Today I will be reading a little bit from one of my favourite books of all time, John O'Donoghue's To Bless the Space Between Us. And, there's no real, I guess there's a purpose and an intention for the video, and it's that I feel so blissful when I read out loud to myself, and I thought I wanted to share that with you, perhaps, and especially if you're feeling a little bit sad or lonely. I know there are a lot of people out there who are not feeling happy, or they're feeling tense and stressed and anxious, and I thought, well, maybe I could make a little relaxing, nourishing, calming, soothing, and warm video for people. I think we all have memories of being read to when we were little, and how good that felt and how relaxing, and maybe that will trigger such a memory for you. So I hope you like it. While our culture is all gloss and pace on the outside, within it is too often haunted and lost. Maybe I should shut this window because there's a lot of noise coming from outside. But it is going to get quite hot. Oh, got my tea here. Okay, darlings. While our culture is all gloss and pace on the outside, within it is too often haunted and lost. The commercial edge of so-called progress has cut away a huge region of human tissue and webbing that held us in communion with one another. We have fallen out of belonging. Aren't we all looking for that sense of belonging? And isn't the longing and the loneliness a seeking or sort of awakening of a frontier that calls to us, as John so eloquently puts it, a frontier of belonging, of the things and places to which we belong, of things and places and people who we love and who we're loved by. Consequently, when we stand before crucial thresholds in our lives, we have no rituals to protect, encourage, and guide us as we cross over into the unknown. For such crossings, we need to find new words. What is nearest to the heart is often furthest from the word. This book is an attempt to reach into that tenuous territory of change that we must traverse when a threshold invites us. Each blessing is intended to present a minimal psychic portrait of the geography of change it names. Without warning, thresholds can open directly before our feet. See, I have to stop because my mind goes in all kinds of directions as I read this thing, and it links so many things. So there are these crucial thresholds in our lives that come up, whether it's something like marriage, or the death of a friend, or the breakup of an important relationship, or, at the end of the year. Big thresholds of change. And there are rituals that certain communities and traditions perform, but they're not always accessible to us. And they're not always what goes right into the heart and helps us, helps our whole self cross over the threshold safely and protected, so that it's not such a strong shock and change to our system. Giving birth is another one. Without warning, thresholds can open directly before our feet, right? Suddenly something happens or changes in our lives. These thresholds are also the shorelines of new worlds. You know, you find out you have a illness, a very severe illness, and they open up these new worlds. A world in which we don't quite know how to live and exist and be and think and feel. The blessings here attempt to offer a brief geography of the new experience and some pathways of presence through it. I would say from my experience reading this book is these blessings are kind of like closing the circle. They're kind of like the healing balm and soothing on top of something that is left open and is still confused. And you'll see what I mean, because I'll read one. It has been a daunting undertaking over several years to create these blessings. A blessing evokes a privileged intimacy. They really are quite intimate. It touches that tender membrane where the human heart cries out to its divine ground. That's an idea that he brings up, that when we are in touch with God, that's when we are most grounded. That is when we can stand on our own 2 feet and feel ourselves as ourselves and be ourselves. Knowing who we are and being who we are, being a person of integrity and authenticity. That's the grounding that we get from connection to the divine, which is close to the heart. He gives a good example of those certain people in our lives who are so ungrounded, so sort of empty on the inside that you almost feel as though you'll fall right in, as opposed to the presence of a person who is grounded within him or herself and is purely and simply him or herself. And there's something almost solid there. It's like entering and owning your own physicality and your own body, which, by the way, is closely linked with bliss and following your bliss. In the ecstasy and loneliness of one's life, there are certain times when blessing is nearer to us than any other person or thing. That is so true. There have been times when I've just needed to read these blessings to myself. A blessing is not a sentiment or a question. It is a gracious invocation where the human heart pleads with the divine heart. And also a real communion, a real calling, sense of deep presence. There's nothing more intimate in a life than the secret under territory where it anchors. There's nothing more intimate in a life than the secret under territory where it anchors, the river beneath the river, rio bajo rio,